I got my long legs on. Hello everyone and welcome back to my YouTube channel. This is a place where I make videos. Yay! I saw the newest film that seemingly everyone on Earth is freaking out about, both in a positive and negative light, and I've come to break through all the bullshit and tell you exactly what I thought of it, as if my opinion holds any weight on public opinion. It doesn't, by the way. I saw the film Longlegs, directed by Oz Perkins, and oh boy, what a movie I saw! Oh my god, what a movie I saw! You know, in a time where I feel like I'm rarely watching movies, even though, like, I watch a lot of movies, I just feel like a lot of the movies that I watch are, like, barely constituting as movies. This was a fucking movie. I was like, god damn, this is sure a movie, isn't it? There are certain experiences where, you know, regardless of what you may later on down the road, like, think about a movie, you will always remember where you were when you saw it. Longlegs is weirdly the best example of that movie I've had in like a long time. Genuinely feel like I will never forget a thing about this movie or the experience. When I showed up at the theater, I was amazed to find that every screening for the day was sold out for the most part, except for the two like front row seats immediately under the screen. So I could have put this off a couple of days and just seen it later, but I was a bit antsy. I wanted to see the movie, so I went ahead and just got those front row seats. So I was unfortunately looking up at the movie the entire time with a sore neck. I was kind of amazed at how many people went out to see this. I guess I didn't fully comprehend the like hype, because when I saw the trailer, you know, I didn't think anything of it beyond like, oh cool, new Osgood Perkins movie. I like him. I will probably like his movie. The trailer was specifically very vague, so I don't think anybody really got a sense of like what the movie was going to be based entirely off of the trailer. And I guess some part of me thought that that was to the movie's detriment to like mainstream film goers, but that turned out to not be true at all, given that everyone on Earth apparently went to my theater to see this, so I had to sit in the front row. How about that? Yeah, as I wrote on Letterboxd, you'll never forget where you were when you saw it, and don't let that make you think anything that I would typically say about a movie, like that it's extremely in your face, it's like super extreme. It's not. It's like super mild mannered. It takes its time, but it also like hurries up. The choice is yours. Don't be late. So I'm going to now give my general impressions of the movie and tell you what I thought of it. From moment one, I was enthralled. I was hooked. The first, like the opening scene of the movie is so compelling immediately, just on the way that it's framed. You get that classic, like, Osgood Perkins is good at visually designing a movie, so like the movie looks hella interesting just immediately. You're immediately fascinated with everything they've put on screen. And then of course we get a vague look at our antagonist in the opening like seconds of the movie. It's genuinely very creepy. And you're like, wow, I'm kind of excited. So then the credits begin rolling. This feeling begins to rise up in me. As the credits are rolling, you know, we're getting some music, and it's a very specific kind of music. It's this like glam, like rock and roll kind of vibe. You kind of don't expect that from this movie, but it has like trappings of this all over the place, and we'll talk about that a little bit later on. On the initial like hitting the credits, there are a couple things that I noticed that I seemingly didn't know, and maybe I'm stupid. Maybe everyone will tell me I'm very stupid about this, but I didn't know Micah Monroe was in this, and I also had absolutely no idea that Nick Cage was in this movie. Not only is he in this movie, but god damn is he eating. He is eating good. He's eating good today. As the credits are rolling, I like turn to my girlfriend and I'm like, holy fuck, you know, I'm like really excited to see this movie, and I'm currently watching it, and that's kind of a wild feeling. Like, I just genuinely haven't gone to see something that I was like really excited about, like, or a movie that actually like made me excited in a long time. I feel like a begrudging interest or a curiosity is at best as high as my bar goes these days, because I have a general understanding that most movies fucking suck now. So when I go into a theater to see a movie, especially one that I'm told is good, I am going to be skeptical. But in this instance, I felt very instantly this feeling of being in good hands, and that the movie I was going to see was going to entertain me in wildly new ways. And that is essentially exactly what I got. If that sounds good to you, you should probably go see Longlegs. This is the end of my review. Do not check the runtime of the video. The video is over. Go see Longlegs. Okay, now that everyone's gone, there she is. It's spoilers time. I'm going to talk about the movie in depth now, because there's this phenomenon with like criticism where a lot of people read reviews or watch reviews largely because they either just saw the movie and they can't go see it again with new eyes, so they watch it through the lens of like other people seeing it for the first time and talking about their thoughts of it. It kind of like creates this unified experience. And number two is people that are like skeptical about seeing it themselves want to see it through the eyes of someone else so that they can determine whether or not they're going to see it and like it. I feel like it's probably better to just go ahead and tell you everything there is to know. Overview of the movie Longlegs, directed by Osgood Perkins, who is a great director. He is a great director of horror movies. I've liked basically every movie he's made, including the Gretel and Hansel movie. I thought was pretty good. I went home and immediately watched that after seeing Longlegs, even though I had seen it before, but I wanted to watch it again. He is the son of Anthony Perkins, which would make some immediately be like, oh, nepotism. But I tell you what, he sure is talented, so fuck it. He is just quite the voice in horror movies, and not in like an Ari Aster kind of way, not really in like a super trashy way. We'll get into that later. Also, I have like a giant bruise on my arm. Oh my God. So I guarantee there was a moment where Osgood Perkins thought to himself this thought. He was like, what if, in the same way that like Mormons go door to door, like trying to convert people to Mormonism or get people interested in the church, what with the widely like accepted, the Satanic Temple and stuff like that in culture, what if there was a door to door satanic cult? Converted people. And of course, how would they convert people? Well, if it's an evil satanic cult, is the way that it is portrayed in many, many things, they would probably trick people into doing it, and then it would end in bloodshed. So that's very, very cool. I guarantee that he had this thought at some point, and it probably informed the entire movie. I didn't know it was about that. I kind of thought it was just like serial killer investigation movie, or maybe it was like a spooky monster. Like the idea that the FBI has to investigate something genuinely confounding. This is interesting to me. No one wants to watch a movie about like cops or whatever. I will say, giving a character the ability to investigate a case and like spend their entire amount of time on it is a great excuse for us to get into a good story. So, you know, I kind of like that trope, to be honest with you. It is about an FBI agent who has intuition. She like experiences a lot of intuition. She doesn't understand. She is cold and emotionless. She doesn't have much of a family. She has a mother, but she doesn't have any personal relationships whatsoever. She does not seemingly care about a lot of the aspects of her life. She just like is focused on her work because she is very good at her work. But as we come to realize later, there are reasons for this. But at first, you just think she's kind of like really cold and distant as far as her impressions of life go. I relate to that a lot, as I am typically very cold and emotionless. As played by Micah Monroe, I connected with that an awful lot. She's very, very good at doing that. She is tasked with the case, the investigation to find a serial killer who has been killing families for 30 years. And the families that have been killed over this time, they all have a daughter whose birthday is on the 14th of the month. No one seemingly is at the scene actually doing the murders. It looks like all of them are inside jobs and none of it makes any sense. So she is tasked with trying to decipher exactly how this is happening, why this is happening, bringing the supposed serial killer to justice. The killer is a cryptic Zodiac-like guy named Longlegs, colloquially known as Longlegs. He leaves these like notes with these cryptic messages that can't necessarily be read without a cipher. Conveniently, while she is on the phone with her mother after a long day of work, the Longlegs character arrives at her house and leaves a cipher for her to go back and kind of uncover exactly everything going on. Demonstrates that it's meant to symbolize something satanic. Oh, perhaps these killings are somewhat mystical, magical. Maybe it's not just a guy who kills people. He is like influencing families, but he personally is not there himself. Then we let's go ahead and just talk about Longlegs, because we do get an awful lot of like POV Longlegs stuff in this, which I guess I wasn't expecting. About halfway through the movie, they just start demonstrating Longlegs as a character, like completely independent of the main story. It just cuts to Longlegs doing shit, going to the store and stuff like this. Well, they're putting this like veil over him as if we don't know who he is and he's like super important, but he's not actually the core mystery of the movie. The antagonist, sure, but there's also a bigger antagonist and there's also a friendly antagonist, and it does an awful lot of like arcing stuff. So this means that we get an awful lot of time just enjoying Longlegs, and that's great because Longlegs is a fascinating character played by Nicolas Cage, and you wouldn't recognize him because they have so much prosthetic makeup on him. He looks like a goddamn nightmare. He looks like me in 40 years. It's horrifying. I got some impressions on this character, and I don't exactly know how other people are viewing this, but I definitely know how I kind of took it in the movie. He comes across as the kind of guy who was like really into glam rock music and then like accidentally stumbled upon satanic worship, which then led him to do a bunch of wild things. I guess I don't know exactly how that leap occurred, but I think that there's something in there that is also in inverse. So as I was saying in the beginning, like conversation was definitely had about the door-to-door satanic cult and how that is like an ironic way of looking at that situation, which it does occur in the movie. Longlegs, I think, is like he's like a figure that plays the inverse of the 80s like rocker or the late 70s rocker or the hippie that later in life like finds Jesus and like is all about God and shit. This is the inverse of that, where it's like some like glam rocker who's aging, who got really into the devil and like super duper believes in it. That's ripe with irony, but also with horror, and so it makes his character like immediately compelling. He's got like posters all over his room. He's got like a guitar in there. He's got like all kinds of shit. Really unlikable just immediately, but also lovable in the sense that you love to feel grossed out by Longlegs, and Nicolas Cage plays him to such an insane level. Like all of his dialogue is so, I would call it like unexpected. You don't expect those words to be said by a person, which makes him very enthralling. It's less that anything he says is like scary, confusing, and esoteric, baffling, I guess. So he's a very baffling character. You know, a lot of people are talking about this movie being super duper scary. I wouldn't even really put it on that level. I think that the movie is compelling, but like I kind of don't really believe in a scary movie. I have seen like every horror movie that seemingly has ever fucking come out at this point, and I have been scared 0 times. Killer coming at you with knife, very scary ghost, scary demon, scary. Really what we want, I think, is like horror trappings that are placed onto compelling things. We want our horror to be compelling. We don't necessarily want it to scare us because like, look at what Blumhouse is doing. They sure are trying to scare us and failing, and look how much they're falling on their face. It's just not working. I don't necessarily think that Longlegs is supposed to be scary as much as he's supposed to be creepy and compelling, and he is both of those things, as played by Nicolas Cage, who is fantastic. Let's talk about the themes of the movie, what the movie is about. If I were to attempt to explain the themes to you, they may mean something else to different people, as has happened many times. There's a couple big themes in this, but a lot of it is like incidentally a character study of Micah Monroe, who's this like emotionless FBI agent. We learn that there are other people who have like survived the Longlegs situation, and they're like utterly dead inside. They just like don't have emotions. Eventually they like wake up or something. This is where the creepy doll portion of the movie hops in here. So I know what you were expecting, not for the movie to be about creepy dolls, but unfortunately for you, this movie is also about creepy dolls. You got a murder, you got FBI stuff, you got a satanic cult, you got a spooky weird guy who worships the devil, and you got dolls. So smorgasbord, it's a goddamn potluck of shit. So there are these dolls that Longlegs makes that have these like balls in them, and the balls are filled with Satan gas or something, and they like zap your soul. Like they take your personality away. They like control your personality. They like take control of you and they replace you in some sort of way. So these dolls, they're very Twin Peaks The Return. I don't know why I think this, but the whole movie is very Twin Peaks Return, actually. There's characters in the movie that like, you know, they go black for like a few years where they just like are comatose. They don't think anything. They're just insane. Longlegs visits, and then suddenly they're awake again. And they're saying wild things like, if the devil asked me to jump off a building, I would jump off a building and be very happy. If the devil asked me to kill you, I would choke you out and make your eyes bleed. Like crazy stuff. The implication begins to manifest that because Micah Monroe is super duper emotionally distant, and she too kind of has this almost comatose reaction to things, and she's also plagued with like a near constant intuition that she can't seem to shut off, becomes somewhat implied that she has a doll of her somewhere in the world that is preventing her from like remembering her past or like carrying on in the future. She has a kind of weird relationship with her mom, who is a hoarder. It's stilted, I would say. Her mom is just very, it feels like she's never saying what she thinks throughout the movie. Of course, this becomes apparent later on. So there's this big theme because of this idea of like a doll taking your memory away and replacing you. I think that this is like just obviously a stand-in for like a traumatic childhood, right? Like something traumatic happens to you in your childhood. It takes some aspect of your personality away. You can't get it back. You don't know why it's happening. And you wish you could remember what happened, but you can't because you're a kid. This leads you to grow up very emotionless and cold and react to difficult situations in a very like do or die way. And of course, I relate to this a lot because I largely feel the same way in my adult life. The things that happened in my childhood have turned me into a very like cold and like direct person. I can deal with difficult situations, and I also like have experienced a lot of things that a lot of people would say are like frightening or upsetting or disturbing, and I don't really feel anything. And I don't think that that's a product of me not caring about that thing or not having empathy for that thing, but just like for whatever reason I can just handle it and I understand it like inherently. This is kind of what's being depicted in Longlegs. I don't really want to talk about the ending of the movie, but I feel like I have to kind of wrap all of this together. So to talk about the ending, we realize that her mother is like the accomplice that's helping Longlegs. She's bringing the dolls to the houses as the quote-unquote door-to-door satanic cult vibe. She brings the doll over, pretends that she's the church. The doll immediately zaps everybody's personality. They all kill each other. She just kills people for the devil. She didn't want to do it, but she was conned into it essentially by Longlegs, who gave her a choice, and she only has the two options, really. As Longlegs put, it's crimson or clover. Do you want to die or do you want to serve the devil? So she decides to serve the devil so that her daughter can grow up. Of course, her daughter grows up, but with a stilted personality because of this difficult thing that happened to her as a child that zapped her brain out of her head. It's like this almost oxymoronic thing, and it's clearly talking about like childhood trauma, whereas like, is it better to die from childhood trauma, or is it better to grow up but be like different, to not live a relatively normal life? Which is better? And that's as a child in a situation like that, it's like a constant question, I think, that goes on in the inside of someone who grew up with childhood trauma. How fucked up are you? Like, how ruined is your life, kind of? And you don't even realize. So it is better to not remember, because if you remember, then you have to like face the fact that your life got fucked up when you were a little kid, and you like can't go back and do anything about it now, and it's very difficult to do anything about it now. And this realization too, that your parents make difficult decisions with you when you're a child, but their decision making is like very complicated. Like Micah Monroe's mother in the movie keeps Longlegs in the basement making dolls throughout her entire life, and she just never knows. Well, geez, is her parent crazy, you know? Like, and in a sense, yes, she is, because she's had to do like terrible things to raise her child. So thus is like a weird condition with like a kid with childhood trauma, is even if your parents are doing all that they can, sometimes them doing all that they can makes them very challenging to like accept the things they've done to keep you alive, even though like you're alive, and that's good. But also you have to live in a world where these terrible things are going to follow you around forever. The horror of living with it. The horror of just living with the thing you can't accept. This truly, at the very bottom of it, is the core of the movie. Living with the thing you can't accept. And really, when it comes down to, you know, talking about the childhood trauma theme, this is like the thing, the core idea that haunts everybody who has childhood trauma of some kind. The idea that you have to live with something that you can't accept. You end up turning yourself all around, living with this contradiction. Terrible. And the movie depicts this very well in its closing moments, where it shows both Harker and this little girl both having to deal with this knowledge that their like lives seemingly are essentially over, but they aren't dead. Totally fine, but can't deal with the unfathomable realities. It's just incredible. It's like super duper duper good. It's so potent, and the theme of it takes like the forefront at a point. And thank God the movie is about something. How nice. That's essentially the movie. If you saw it, that's my take on the movie. There is an ongoing conversation that I guess I started with the Terrifier 2 thing, where, you know, a lot of people are very mad at me about the Terrifier 2 video because I called the movie trash. But hear me on this. It is, and that's fine. Like, trash is fine. I don't understand where this impression that this is trash and the person who made it is a piece of shit or something like that. Like, that's never what I'm ever saying in anything. Do I think that the movie is like flawed or bad in certain ways? Like, yeah, but also it's trash. Like, trash is trash, and trash is good. Trash is fun. I like trash. You like trash. Everybody likes trash. Everybody can pick one thing that they like, that's trash. And so my general impression is that when I call Terrifier 2 peak trash, I'm saying that for a lot of people, this is their trash and they love it, and that's good. There are many things to think about within the movie, but ultimately at the end of the day, it is good that people are getting trash when everything has been like the two like things you have to accept in horror these days are either quote-unquote elevated horror, which is kind of an ironic general bad idea, and also like Blumhouse horror, which is just nothing going on at all, and it's super boring and nothing happens, and it's not even like funny bad, it's just nothing. It's just nothingness. It's like an asylum movie. It's crazy. This brings me to Longlegs and where I put this you know, on the spectrum. The thing is, the FBI thing, the FBI investigates weird serial killer thing. I mean, we're essentially talking about trash TV that has been reskinned with beautiful cinematography, incredible performances, really effective stuff, and some themes, and bada bing, you've got what I would consider to be well-made trash. It is a horror movie that is made good. Any movie, I think, is better when it is made good, right? It is just a regular horror movie that is skinned really good. It is directed really good. It has a lot of things on its mind. This is good. I wouldn't call it elevated horror or whatever, because when I think of elevated horror, I think of Ari Aster or something like that, like taking things that don't necessarily require this amount of importance and putting a ton of importance on them, using like really horrific concepts like grief to like manipulate audience members and stuff like that. It's none of that. It's just straightforward horror movie, but done good. And I think that that's generally good and emotionally affecting. I don't think that it classifies itself as being better than you. I think that that's the impression a lot of people get from elevated horror, is that it's like they're like boring movies that think they're better than you. And I understand this because I like trash. So, and I think a lot of people's tendency to like defend something like Terrifier 2 comes from the fact that they believe anybody I got the damn thumbs up again. That's really weird. Anybody who is reviewing the movie and saying anything bad about it is essentially saying they are better than the movie. And if the movie acts like it is on the same level as its audience, that means that that reviewer thinks that they're better than everyone else. And that super duper isn't true. I absolutely don't think that I am better than anyone. I simply had thoughts that I wanted to share, but ultimately, like, Terrifier 2 is just, it's just good trash, where in the same sense, like, this movie is what I would consider to be very, very well-made horror. I would give the movie as close to a perfect score as possible because I really, really liked it. I thought it was really good. I loved the shit out of Longlegs. I highly recommend that you see it if you have not. I love Osgood Perkins's movies. I think he is like super duper good, and he has like such a wildly intent cinematic eye. It's like fantastic to see. I actually got to see a movie for the first time in a long time that I watched and was like, wow, it's a dang movie. So that is very relieving to see. And with that, I guess I'll go ahead and wrap it up here. Thank you for watching. I've been Nick Spheres, or May Leets, if you know me by name. I write books. I have books releasing very soon that look like this. You can get those in the download link below. I want to thank my patrons over at patreon.com/nickspheres. Please consider pledging if you have not, as it continues my long-term ability to eat food, which is seemingly a Herculean task. I don't want to die. Please consider supporting me on Patreon so that I definitely don't. I have a new album of music coming out soon. I will probably play a tune over the credits, as I have been recently. Get ready to check that out when I post some details. And as always, thank you so much for watching. Just if you're just watching for free or whatever, I don't really care. I'm glad that people are you know, watching my stuff. Happy to be back, you know? Happy to be doing some stuff. I will catch you next time when another movie comes out that I have a take on. I also have another thing coming out later this month, so keep an eye out for that. And I'll see you around. Bye.